What is going on, guys? We are back with the second episode of my Witchery mod tutorial series, and today we're going to be going over Poppets. Now, Poppets are an extremely big part of the beginning parts of Witchery, and actually carry over into the late parts of Witchery and into other mods. I'll talk about how that is later. But before you guys can even think about starting Poppets and, voodoo and all that good stuff, you need to have taglock kits. Now, taglock kits are essentially what is going to tell the curse that you use or the poppet that you use what you want the target to be. Now you can set this as yourself or other players on the server, whether you want it to be offensive or defensive. So first you need to make the taglock kits, and they're extremely simple to make. They take one glass bottle and one bone needle per taglock kit, and bone needles are also really simple to make. They just take one flint and one bone, and that makes 8 bone needles, so you can mass produce these. They stack in stacks of 16, and I'm just going to advise you guys right now, because you will regret it later, make sure you make a bunch of these and taglock a player as many times as you can, because you're going to need a bunch of these, especially if you have a smaller server and less players to pick from when you're using the voodoo. You're going to want a lot of these, because you consume them each time you use them. So now we need to tell you guys how to actually get the player taglocked. Now, there's 3 different ways to get the player taglocked, not directly from their character, and that's through using a regular bed, a carpenter's bed, which was recently added, and a leech chest. But first I'll go over taglocking an actual player. So this is the hardest one to actually do, because taglocking a player typically is on a PvP server, and if it's on a PvP server, they're going to be able to kill you. And when you're taglocking someone, it's not super effective taglocking them directly. There's a lot of different factors you have to take into account, and there's a lot of different ways you can boost the effectiveness of trying to taglock someone. But I'll start from the beginning. You can fail when you're taglocking someone, and this will alert them to the fact that you're trying to taglock them. So even if you're invisible, they will know that someone is trying to taglock them on their player, so they can kill you. And first of all, the least effective way to taglock someone is to go directly in front of them. So I'm just going to tell you guys how to boost your chances of effectively taglocking someone. First, you want to be sneaking. That boosts your chances. You want to be behind them, and being invisible also boosts your chances a lot. So those are 3 easy ways to boost your chances, no matter how you want to go through those. But probably the most effective way is to go to the player's bed. Now, if you're going to taglock a player through their bed, they need to have slept in the bed clearly, but they also need to be on the server. So they will be able to defend themselves, and they will know that you've taglocked them once you've done it through their bed. But you can just spam right click on a bed until you have as many as you want, because when it fails, you can just reattempt to taglock them. And you can do that with both the regular bed and the carpenter's bed. And then the leech chest, same thing. You right click on it, and the way the leech chest works, and this is actually a witchery item, is you put it down, and anyone who enters it, it's basically like a normal chest, but then you can right click on it after a player's entered it. And I can't remove my own taglock from the chest, but if the other player that entered it was on, it would take their taglock and give it to you. But this is probably the least common way to taglock someone, and the beds are probably the most common because they're the easiest. Now, if you're taglocking an enemy player, you're just going to right click on their bed. If you're taglocking yourself, you can shift right click on any bed. It doesn't matter if you've slept in it or not, you can shift right click on it. You do that with both this bed and the carpenter's bed. You can see they've got both the same ID, and it's called Taglock Kit Violent Tadpole, so it applies it to me, even though I haven't slept in either of these beds. And you can see that there's a slight difference in the way it looks. It gets a little filled up with some pink liquid, and it specifies what player it's for. So now once you have the taglock kit, you can actually head off and make your poppets. Now, making the initial poppet is extremely simple, but the initial poppet has no effect. So to make the initial poppet, you need 2 Spanish moss, which is created using mutandis on just tall grass or other plants, and it'll have a chance of converting it to that or another witchery plant that's specific to witchery, like the saplings. Then you need 4 wool. You need a string and a bone needle, which we went over making earlier, and that will get you 1 poppet. So they're not too expensive. The only slightly annoying thing to get is the Spanish moss. Now, there's a bunch of different types of poppets. There's actually 11, but not all of them are super useful. So before I'm going to go over all the poppets, I'm going to talk about storing them. Now, to have a poppet take effect, you need it to either be on a poppet shelf, which is what these poppets are stored on, or on your player. Now, most people will keep it on a poppet shelf because it won't take up inventory space clearly, but some people can't afford poppet shelves, which is why it can also be used with the inventory. But for the sake of this, I'm going to show you guys how to make the poppet shelf. It's slightly expensive if you're just getting into Witchery, so I didn't use it at the very beginning, but eventually you can use it as you're going to have to store a lot. So you need 4 attuned stones, you need 4 nether brick, and then you need green wool in the very center. So it's not super bad, but it is a little rough on players who are just starting out on servers and getting into Witchery because it does require some diamonds and some resources to gather to complete it. So once you have this done, you can enter it, and it stores 9 poppets each shelf, so you probably want a couple. And there's actually 11, like I said, 11 different types of poppets, but not all of them are effective. Now, the earth protection poppet protects a player from fall damage, water protection poppet protects them from drowning, fire protection poppet protects them from burning, lava, or regular fire, hunger protection poppet protects a player from dying from hunger, tool protection poppet protects a player or protects a tool from breaking, death protection poppet, which is probably the most useful of all the poppets and the most expensive. It basically incorporates the water, fire, and earth protection poppet and protects from death in general. Now these can be stacked. You can have 10 of these all applied to one player, and they'll just repeatedly be consumed as it protects the player from any form of death. So they're, like I said, they're expensive, but they're super effective. Now, there's also the voodoo protection poppet, which protects a player from, the voodoo poppet or curses. And that's basically all it is for, but this is what people will make when they're trying to go against witches on a server that are cursing them, and these will have durability, and as a player curses, the durability will go down. Now, voodoo protection poppets and all the poppets can be destroyed through one curse, the corrupt poppet curse, which gets rid of up to 10 of a player's poppets. Now this is what a witch will do to a player if they're trying to clear their poppets and then curse them with something. So do not think just because you have a voodoo protection poppet that you're safe from curses. Now, the voodoo poppet itself is an offensive poppet that you can tag onto a player, and you can bring it underwater with you, and it will make the player take damage as you do, and there's certain ways to get around you dying, and you can actually kill a player without them being able to do anything about it. Then there's bone needles that you can stick in it, which you can see in the little picture, and you can't spam them into it, but you can click them in regularly, and they don't do much damage, but they are really annoying because it's just like a prick of a needle, like you would imagine with a regular voodoo doll. Then there's the vampiric poppet, which basically creates a meat shield for you, and it redirects damage done to you to whatever you bind it to. Now, there's also the poppet protection poppet, and this is going to protect you from that corrupt poppet curse, which I told you about before. This prevents that curse from destroying your poppets, and will destroy this poppet instead. So if you are going to make a bunch of poppets, I would suggest making a poppet protection poppet too. Then there's the armor protection poppet, which protects armor from breaking, just like the tool protection poppet. So not all these poppets are super effective, but for the sake of an example, I'm going to show you guys what I think is the most effective poppet, which is the death protection poppet. Now this poppet's slightly expensive, just because of the diamond vapor and drop of luck. Those both require distilleries, and the diamond vapor requires a diamond, and the drop of luck requires that you make refined evil, which also takes a little bit of a process to make, but they're not very bad to make, and you can mass produce them, so that'll allow you to mass produce death protection poppets, and that's really effective because you can have like 50 of them attached to you, and it's basically just different lives. You'll just consume one after another, and you will never die, basically. So at the expense of a little bit of time and effort, you can prevent yourself from dying and losing your items. So it takes 4 gold nuggets, all surrounding a poppet in the center, a drop of luck, and a diamond vapor, and that gets you 1 not bound death protection poppet. Now, in most cases, you're going to want to bind the death protection poppet to yourself. So for this example, I have the death protection poppet that we just made, and the taglock kit for myself that we got earlier. You can see it says bound to Violent Tadpole, which is me. And if we look at what it makes a death protection poppet that's also bound to me. So we're going to grab this out of here, we're going to change ourselves into adventure mode, and I'm going to show you guys the effectiveness of this through lava. Now, like I said before, there's a fire protection poppet, but this death protection poppet encompasses all of that. Now we're going to keep it in our inventory so it's effective. We could also store it in a poppet shelf. But when we jump in here, we're going to take fatal damage, and it is going to save us, and we're going to be able to get out with, whatever diamonds we got from mining, or, we'll be able to get away safely from whoever we're fighting. So we jump in here, and oh no, we died. Oh wait, no we didn't. The death protection poppet was consumed. You get fire resistance, you're able to regen your health, and you're good to go. So that'll help you live, and if we had another protection poppet, it would be consumed then, give us more fire resistance, prevent us from taking lethal damage if this fire was going to kill us, and we could keep going, and it would just chain consume the poppets as long as they're in your inventory or in the poppet shelf. So you can basically make yourself infinite lives at the expense of some diamonds and some witchery items, all that good stuff. So I would suggest making a bunch of death protection poppets if I were you, because they're extremely effective. And that's it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, feel free to give it a like. Feel free to subscribe if you want to see my future videos in either this series or my crack pack series, which I'm maining the Witchery mod in. And if you guys want to request a future episode that you want to see sooner, feel free to post it in the comments, or if you have any questions. If not, I'll just cover another basic topic in a couple days, and you guys can check back then. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you later.